Only 1% are chosen. This message found you tonight. Only 1% of people on this planet were ever meant to hear words like these and recognize them instantly. Not because they are better, but because they were marked early, shaped quietly, and prepared through pressure most people could not survive. If you are listening right now and something inside you feels alert, focused, almost awakened, understand this clearly. This is not an accident, and this is not random. God does not waste timing, and He does not misplace His messages. This moment is intentional. You were never meant to struggle endlessly. You were never designed to live small, unseen, or uncertain about your purpose. What you are experiencing right now is recognition, a remembering, a confirmation that what you have felt for years, that your life carries weight, responsibility, and future influence, was true all along. God says only 1% are chosen to carry abundance at the highest level, and those chosen are tested long before they are rewarded. Tonight matters. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Tonight. Because alignment happens in moments like this, when your attention is captured and your spirit is receptive. Billions are not promised to everyone, but stewardship at that scale is reserved for those who can hear instruction, move in obedience, and stay present when the call is given. This is not about greed. This is about assignment. Before we go any further, do not leave. Stay with this message until the end, because walking away early has cost people breakthroughs they were closer to than they realized. If this resonates with you even slightly, take a second to acknowledge it. Like this message, subscribe, or leave a comment declaring that you are ready. Obedience begins with attention, and attention unlocks what comes next. If this found you tonight, it is because your turn is approaching, and God does not announce arrival without intention. 1. The dividing line. Why only 1% were ever meant to cross? There has always been a dividing line in this world, even if most people never notice it. 99% move through life following patterns they did not choose, chasing goals handed to them by fear, tradition, or survival. They live reacting instead of creating, repeating instead of building, hoping instead of knowing. And then there is the 1%, the ones who feel different even when they try not to, the ones who sense early that they do not fit comfortably inside the system designed for everyone else. The separation does not begin with money. It begins with awareness. The 1% question things the 99% accept without thought. They feel restless where others feel content. They sense limitation where others see safety. From an early age, the chosen experience a quiet discomfort with ordinary paths, even when they attempt to walk them. This is not rebellion. It is recognition. Most people want comfort. The chosen are wired for responsibility. Most people pray for ease. The 1% are trained through pressure. That is why the gap between the two groups is not merely financial or social. It is spiritual and psychological. The 99% look for permission. The 1% move when conviction speaks, even when clarity is incomplete. You may have noticed this separation long before hearing these words. Moments when you felt isolated in your thinking. Times when your vision outpaced the understanding of those around you. Seasons where growth forced you to stand alone. This was not punishment. This was positioning. God does not elevate crowds. He refines individuals. The 99% seek validation from each other, measuring worth through comparison and approval. The 1% learn early that validation must come from alignment. That is why rejection follows them closely. That is why misunderstanding feels familiar. When you are being separated, comfort is removed so clarity can form. This division is uncomfortable because it is intentional. If everyone could carry influence, abundance, and scale, it would not require selection. But stewardship at the highest levels demands discipline, restraint, and vision that most are unwilling to develop. The 1% are not chosen because they are flawless. They are chosen because they are willing to be formed. If you have ever wondered why your path feels heavier, why your calling feels larger than your current environment, or why settling has never truly satisfied you, understand this. You were never meant to remain among the 99%. Separation is not arrogance, it is assignment. And the moment you recognize which side of the line you stand on, your preparation truly begins. 2. Chosen before you knew, the divine selection at work. Before you ever understood the language for it, selection was already taking place. Long before ambition formed, before strategy, before confidence, God was observing your spirit, your endurance, your response to pressure. Selection was not based on what you achieved publicly, but on who you were becoming privately. While others were being shaped by convenience, you were being shaped by resistance. Nothing about your life unfolded by accident. The delays, the detours, the closed doors that confused you at the time were not signs of denial. They were filters. Divine selection is subtle. It does not announce itself with applause or instant reward. It operates quietly, often invisibly, separating those who can carry weight from those who only desire outcome. God selects based on capacity, not desire. Many ask for abundance, influence, and expansion, but few are prepared to carry the responsibility attached to it. That is why your life demanded maturity early. That is why you learned resilience before recognition. That is why you were forced to develop inner strength long before outer success appeared. Selection always precedes revelation. You were watched in moments no one else saw. How you handled disappointment, how you responded when effort was not rewarded, how you treated others when you had nothing to gain. These moments mattered more than any public achievement. Heaven measures differently than the world does. God measures depth, integrity, obedience, and endurance. There were times you may have questioned yourself, wondering why things seemed harder for you than for others, why progress felt delayed, why success appeared to come easily to people who seemed less thoughtful, less disciplined, or less prepared. What you were experiencing was not neglect, it was refinement. God does not rush preparation for those He intends to trust with scale. Selection also explains your sensitivity, your awareness, your inability to ignore truth once you see it. Chosen ones cannot unsee what has been revealed to them. They feel conviction strongly. They sense misalignment quickly. That is because their lives are governed by purpose, not randomness. When you move out of alignment, discomfort follows, not as punishment, but as correction. You were selected because you could survive the process without losing your integrity, because you could endure silence without becoming bitter, because you could walk through uncertainty without abandoning faith. Divine selection does not protect you from struggle. It ensures that struggle produces wisdom instead of destruction. If this narrative resonates, it is because recognition is occurring. You are not discovering something new. You are remembering something old. A truth placed inside you long ago, waiting for the right moment to be spoken aloud. God does not reveal selection to impress you. He reveals it to prepare you, because what is coming requires awareness, humility, and readiness. And now, you are beginning to understand why your life unfolded the way it did. 3. Forged in silence. The trials that conditioned you for scale. What most people call hardship, God uses as conditioning. The trials you endured were not random storms. They were deliberate training environments. While others were allowed to grow comfortably, you were developed through pressure. This is how spiritual capacity is expanded. Strength is never formed in ease. It is forged in resistance, repetition, and restraint. There were seasons when it felt like life went quiet, prayers unanswered, efforts unseen, support absent. Those moments were not abandonment. They were isolation chambers. God removes noise before He sharpens clarity. He separates the chosen so they can hear instruction without interference. Silence was not emptiness. It was preparation. You were tested emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Disappointment became familiar. Waiting became exhausting. Trust was stretched beyond comfort. These trials were not meant to break you. They were meant to reveal what could not be shaken. Many people ask for elevation, but few can withstand the internal pressure that comes before it. You were taught endurance because endurance protects destiny. Spiritual conditioning often feels unfair because it is unequal. Others received shortcuts. Others were spared lessons you had to learn the hard way. But shortcuts produce fragility, and fragility cannot hold weight. God was building something in you that could last: discipline, discernment, patience, and self-control. These qualities are not optional at higher levels. They are required. Loneliness was one of the strongest tools used in your conditioning. Not because you were unworthy of connection, but because influence requires independence of thought. When you stand alone long enough, you learn who you are without applause. You learn to move without permission. You learn to trust inner conviction over external approval. This is how leaders are formed. You were also tested through delay, promises that seemed close but remained just out of reach, progress that felt slower than it should have been. Delay is not denial. It is timing alignment. God does not release abundance into unprepared hands. Delay allowed your character to mature at the same pace your calling expanded. Even your moments of doubt were part of the conditioning. Doubt forced you to choose belief repeatedly. Each time you stayed, each time you continued despite uncertainty, spiritual muscle was built. Faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted. Yours has been tested thoroughly, and it remains intact. If you look back honestly, you survived what others could not. Situations that would have hardened some people refined you instead. Pain that could have made you bitter made you aware. Loss that could have ended you redirected you. This is evidence of conditioning, not coincidence. God does not waste suffering. Every trial you endured served a purpose, even when the purpose was hidden. Conditioning always happens before elevation, and the fact that you are still standing, still seeking, still listening is proof that the process worked. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are trained and nearly ready. 4. Billions with purpose. Why wealth is a divine instrument. Wealth, in its highest form, has never been about excess or ego. It has always been about reach, responsibility, and execution. God does not think in small increments. He thinks in systems, generations, and impact. That is why abundance at scale is reserved for those who understand that money is not the destination. It is the tool. Many people struggle with the idea of wealth because they have only seen it misused. They associate money with corruption, greed, or moral compromise. But misuse does not invalidate purpose. Fire can destroy, yet it also refines. Wealth functions the same way. In the wrong hands, it amplifies dysfunction. In the right hands, it accelerates good. God entrusts resources to those whose character can guide power responsibly. You were not conditioned to crave money. You were conditioned to handle it. That distinction matters. Desire seeks possession. Stewardship seeks assignment. Billions require emotional regulation, ethical clarity, and spiritual grounding. Without those, wealth collapses inward and consumes the one who holds it. This is why preparation always precedes provision. God uses wealth to move influence efficiently, to fund vision, to protect time, to open doors that remain closed to effort alone. Money compresses distance between intention and outcome. When aligned correctly, it allows purpose to scale beyond personal limitation. That is why chosen ones are not trained to worship wealth, but to command it without being ruled by it. You may have noticed that your relationship with money has always felt different. Either it came slowly, forcing discipline, or it arrived briefly, teaching lessons about control and attachment. These experiences were not meant to frustrate you. They were meant to educate you. God teaches stewardship before abundance, because abundance without wisdom creates chaos. Wealth is also a test of obedience. What you do when resources increase reveals what truly governs you: ego or humility, fear or faith, self-protection or generosity. God does not entrust large-scale provision to those who will abandon alignment the moment comfort appears. That is why the chosen are taught restraint before reward. Billions are not given to impress others. They are given to stabilize systems, create opportunity, and shift environments. When God places wealth in the hands of the prepared, it becomes a force multiplier for good. Communities change, families heal, ideas move from vision to reality. This is not fantasy. It is function. You are being prepared to understand wealth without being intoxicated by it, to use money without being owned by it, to see abundance as an amplifier of purpose, not proof of worth. Your value was never tied to numbers. The numbers are simply tools meant to obey your alignment. If God intends to trust you with scale, it is because your heart has been trained to remain grounded while your reach expands. Wealth is not the reward. It is the responsibility. And when the responsibility is understood, the provision follows naturally. 5. This is the moment. Why activation happens tonight. There are moments in life that carry more weight than others, not because of what is visible, but because of what shifts internally. Tonight is not just another night. It is an intersection, a point where preparation meets readiness, where awareness meets timing. Activation does not always arrive with noise or spectacle. Often, it comes quietly, disguised as attention, recognition, or a feeling you cannot ignore. You did not arrive here accidentally. Every delay, every detour, every season of waiting was moving you toward a precise moment of alignment. Activation requires readiness, and readiness is not something you rush. It is something you grow into. Tonight represents the point where growth has met its threshold. Enough has been learned. Enough has been endured. Enough has been formed. God activates when attention is fully present, when distraction fades and awareness sharpens. That is why this message matters now, not later, not eventually. Now. Timing is not about urgency. It is about precision. Doors do not open when you want them to. They open when you are able to walk through without collapsing under what's on the other side. Activation begins internally before anything changes externally. It starts with clarity replacing confusion, with certainty replacing hesitation, with peace replacing anxiety. You may not see immediate results tomorrow, but something shifts tonight. Your posture, your perception, your willingness to move when instructed. That shift is everything. Many people miss activation because they are waiting for proof before belief. But activation flows in the opposite direction. Belief sharpens perception, and perception reveals opportunity. Tonight is about recognition, recognizing that you are no longer who you were in past seasons, and that old limitations no longer apply to who you are becoming. This moment does not demand action out of panic. It asks for stillness, agreement, and alignment. A quiet yes. A decision to stop doubting the preparation process. A willingness to trust that what you have been shaped for will now begin to respond to you differently. Activation is less about doing more and more about resisting less. God activates chosen ones when they stop chasing confirmation and start operating from conviction. Tonight marks that transition. You are not reaching for identity anymore. You are standing in it. You are not asking if you are ready. You are realizing that readiness has been built over time. Pay attention to what you feel now. Not excitement alone, but calm certainty. Not urgency, but assurance. These are signs of alignment. Activation does not overwhelm. It stabilizes. It does not rush. It anchors. And once activation occurs, movement follows naturally. Tonight is not the end of preparation. It is the end of hesitation. What begins here will unfold in stages, but the internal permission has already been granted. You are allowed to move forward without apology. You are allowed to expect expansion without guilt. You are allowed to trust that this moment matters. Activation does not shout. It settles. And if you are still listening, still present, still aware, that is because something has already begun. 6. Obstacles in the path, resistance, doubt, and enemies. Every chosen one encounters resistance. It is unavoidable, inevitable, and intentional. The higher the calling, the louder the opposition. Resistance does not mean failure. It means that you are moving in the right direction. What you face now is not a punishment for ambition, but a test of alignment, courage, and discernment. Those who cannot navigate resistance are often the ones who were never meant to carry the weight of destiny at scale. Doubt is a natural companion on the path of the 1%. It will whisper questions at your quietest moments. Are you enough? Will this ever work? Did you misunderstand your purpose? These doubts are not signs of weakness. They are instruments of refinement. The chosen learn to recognize doubt as a signal to recalibrate, not retreat. The mind that is trained to hear instruction over fear becomes impervious to paralysis. Enemies also appear. Some are obvious, others hidden. Not all opposition is overt. Some take the form of skepticism disguised as concern, discouragement masquerading as advice. Those who resist your rise may not understand your calling. That is their limitation, not yours. The key is not to fight every opposition, but to remain faithful to the path, calibrated by purpose, not emotion. External attacks often reflect internal challenges. When criticism cuts deepest, it is often because it touches a truth you have yet to fully master. But this is also how growth accelerates. Every obstacle removed improperly becomes a distraction. Every obstacle approached with discernment becomes a stepping stone. Your responsibility is to move through resistance without losing sight of alignment. Fear of rejection is another layer of resistance. Many chosen ones have been misjudged, misrepresented, or misunderstood, sometimes by the people closest to them. The world often does not reward vision, but it always tests it. Remember, the 1% are not defined by the comfort of others. They are defined by their ability to remain consistent in belief, regardless of reaction. Enemies may try to mimic, undermine, or discredit. Resistance may seem relentless. Doubt may appear convincing. But these forces are temporary and external. Your internal alignment, the training, the trials, the preparation, is permanent. Trust that God does not abandon those He has selected. Opposition exists to reveal your readiness, not your limitations. Every challenge tonight, every question that rises, every skeptical voice you hear is a confirmation of the path, not a deviation from it. The chosen are always confronted with friction. It is the friction that polishes clarity, strengthens resolve, and confirms purpose. Do not misinterpret resistance as denial. It is recognition in disguise. Stay steady. Stay aligned. Your breakthrough is approaching, and the obstacles you face now will become the very proof of your endurance when victory arrives. 7. Standing in agreement. Final alignment through obedience. Alignment is not a feeling. It is a decision. A quiet, internal agreement to move in the same direction as what has been revealed, even when outcomes are not fully visible yet. Final alignment happens when resistance softens, when striving gives way to trust, and when obedience becomes natural rather than forced. This is the stage you are entering now. Obedience is often misunderstood. It is not submission to fear or loss of control. It is clarity in motion. It is the ability to act without needing constant reassurance. Chosen ones learn that obedience is not about perfection, but about responsiveness. When instruction comes, hesitation fades. When clarity appears, movement follows. You are not being asked to rush. You are being asked to remain aligned. Alignment keeps you steady, while momentum builds. It prevents distraction from masquerading as opportunity. It allows you to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Obedience sharpens discernment, and discernment protects destiny. At this stage, comparison no longer serves you. Looking sideways dilutes focus. Your path is specific, measured, and intentional. Others may move faster or slower, louder or quieter. That no longer concerns you. Alignment anchors you in your own timing. Obedience keeps you rooted when external noise tries to pull you off course. Final alignment also brings peace. Not the absence of challenge, but the absence of confusion. You may still face decisions, but clarity will accompany them. You may still encounter opposition, but it will no longer destabilize you. When obedience becomes your posture, outcomes become less intimidating because direction is secure. This is where preparation transitions into positioning. You are not waiting to become ready. You are ready to be placed. The refinement has been sufficient. The conditioning has done its work. Now, consistency matters more than intensity. Faithfulness matters more than force. Obedience matters more than urgency. God does not require you to see the entire path, only the next step. Alignment ensures that each step unfolds the next. Obedience keeps you moving without panic. Trust fills the spaces where certainty has not yet arrived. As this message comes to a close, understand this clearly. Nothing is missing. You are not late. You are not overlooked. You are not behind. You are aligned. And alignment attracts provision, clarity, and opportunity at the right time. Remain attentive. Remain grounded. Remain obedient. What unfolds next will not require striving, only consistency. And when movement begins, you will recognize it, not because it is loud, but because it fits of the path, not a deviation from it. The chosen are always confronted with friction. It is the friction that polishes clarity, strengthens resolve, and confirms purpose. Do not misinterpret resistance as denial. It is recognition in disguise. Stay steady. Stay aligned. Your breakthrough is approaching, and the obstacles you face now will become the very proof of your endurance when victory arrives. 7. Standing in agreement. Final alignment through obedience. Alignment is not a feeling. It is a decision. A quiet, internal agreement to move in the same direction as what has been revealed, even when outcomes are not fully visible yet. Final alignment happens when resistance softens, when striving gives way to trust, and when obedience becomes natural rather than forced. This is the stage you are entering now. Obedience is often misunderstood. It is not submission to fear or loss of control. It is clarity in motion. It is the ability to act without needing constant reassurance. Chosen ones learn that obedience is not about perfection, but about responsiveness. When instruction comes, hesitation fades. When clarity appears, movement follows. You are not being asked to rush. You are being asked to remain aligned. Alignment keeps you steady, while momentum builds. It prevents distraction from masquerading as opportunity. It allows you to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Obedience sharpens discernment, and discernment protects destiny. At this stage, comparison no longer serves you. Looking sideways dilutes focus. Your path is specific, measured, and intentional. Others may move faster or slower, louder or quieter. That no longer concerns you. Alignment anchors you in your own timing. Obedience keeps you rooted when external noise tries to pull you off course. Final alignment also brings peace. Not the absence of challenge, but the absence of confusion. You may still face decisions, but clarity will accompany them. You may still encounter opposition, but it will no longer destabilize you. When obedience becomes your posture, outcomes become less intimidating because direction is secure. This is where preparation transitions into positioning. You are not waiting to become ready. You are ready to be placed. The refinement has been sufficient. The conditioning has done its work. Now, consistency matters more than intensity. Faithfulness matters more than force. Obedience matters more than urgency. God does not require you to see the entire path, only the next step. Alignment ensures that each step unfolds the next. Obedience keeps you moving without panic. Trust fills the spaces where certainty has not yet arrived. As this message comes to a close, understand this clearly. Nothing is missing. You are not late. You are not overlooked. You are not behind. You are aligned. And alignment attracts provision, clarity, and opportunity at the right time. Remain attentive. Remain grounded. Remain obedient. What unfolds next will not require striving, only consistency. And when movement begins, you will recognize it, not because it is loud, but because it fits.